Good afternoon, students. The next topic in disaster management is drought management. Okay, what is drought? Drought means when there is no water because of deficient rainfall, then it is called drought. So there is a particular definition for drought. So that means a particular area is so dry that the crops do not grow and the animals that are in that area will die, and people will become having malnutrition, and they will not have good health. They will become sick because there is no water supply, and the water which is available is all salty because it is groundwater is so deep, and the fresh water is polluted, and the animals will die in a particular area. So in Tamil Nadu we do not have that much of drought, but if the rainfall is deficient for a long time, then that will be drought. Usually the desert area is called, there nothing will grow because of deficient rainfall, so there is lot of drought. So the central part of India, where the rainfall is very deficient, sometimes it can have droughts. But the coastal areas where we all come, there is lot of rainfall during the monsoon, and every year we have at least some sort of rainfall. So we have very less chance of drought. So if the rainfall which is supposed to fall in a particular area, if it's less than 35%, then it is that area is drought prone. Okay, so there are different classifications of drought, so based on the type of drought that is present. So meteorological drought means there is rainfall which is deficient for the long term average, that is 25% of less than normal, or 26 to 50% is moderate, and more than 50% if it is less, it is called severe drought. So based on the rainfall we can classify as average, normal and severe drought. Then hydrological drought, that is the surface of the water under the ground. So we know that we all have water under the surface of the ground, that is why we put bore to take the groundwater. So if the surface groundwater is below a particular area, then it is called hydrological drought. Then agricultural drought. Okay, agricultural drought means if there is 4 consecutive weeks of meteorological drought, that is there is very deficient rainfall in a particular area for a long time, then the plants cannot grow. Most of our farmers, they depend on the rainfall for the crops to grow. So if there is no rain, then they cannot grow the plants. So that is called as agricultural drought. So what is the cause of drought? So we have a lot of climate change. There is a lot of pollution, industries have developed, we emit a lot of carbon, and the green cover or the trees are being cut off, so all the green cover is going. So there's a lot of climate change happening, and because of this the monsoon gets affected. There are phenomena called El Nino. Okay, that means there is global warming which is happening, and all the water in the Arctic and Antarctic is flooding the seas, so the water level is rising. So this changes which are happening in the environment, that prevents the normal monsoon from occurring, that is rain does not occur. So this leads to drought. And also if there is a lot of trees, what will happen, the roots go under the soil, so they will hold the soil together, and the water will also stay between the soil. If the trees are being cut, then the water level also decreases drastically, and the population increase is also causing the water level to decrease. So all this together causes drought. So when there is a drought, what happens? What is the impact of drought? There are different impacts. For example, there could be economic impact, environmental impact, and social impact. So economic means when there is no crops growing, then the farmers will not have any money in their hands. That leads to a lot of loss. They do not have jobs, they are not able to spend money for their family. So this becomes an economic impact. Then the environmental impact, when there is drought, then the trees will not grow, there are not enough food for the animals that are living, and lot of deaths will happen, and the environment will become more damaged because there is less water. The plants and trees will become will not grow. So that is environmental impact. And social impact: if there is no drinking water, if there is no animals and plants which are able to live in a particular area, then the people who live in that area will also, depending on farming, they will move to a different area. So they will, this is called social impact, and people start moving, and they start living in the cities, because they'll, instead of farming, they will go for other jobs. So this is the social impact of drought. So there are other effects as well. For example, the water supply: if you have a tank or a lake in a particular area or a river, because there is drought, people start taking water from that, and the water will get over. So that is another effect. Then the crops will die because of lack of water. Animals like goats, cattle, cow, all this will die because there is no water. And people will have illness and sickness because they do not have enough water to take bath. They are not able to have clean, fresh drinking water. So these are all the immediate or primary effects of drought. Then the secondary effects of drought is people start migrating. I already told, if there is no water in a particular area, the people living in that area will move to a different area to graze their cattle or to find other jobs. So this is called migration, which occurs. Then because of the lack of water, the food crops will not grow, and that will lead to famine or lack of food. Then permanent changes of settlement: people will start moving permanently to other areas where there is enough water. And when there is when there is a drought, then no plants will grow. That leads to barren land. So the land is very open, there are no trees. So when suddenly there is a rainfall in a different area, flash floods can occur because the water just rushes fast over the empty area. And finally, it can also slowly become a desert because there is no water. So these are the impact of drought. So how can we manage the drought? So there are ways in which we can monitor the drought and manage the drought. First, for example, when there is no rainfall, the government and the Ministry of Agriculture, as well as the meteorological department, they monitor to see whether there is dryness, whether there is no rain, or there is a deficient rain. Usually there is a particular amount of rainfall in every place. If there is going to be less than that particular amount of rainfall, then the meteorological department will give warning to the people that rain is going to be deficient, so they can plan for alternate crops. Then the people who live in a particular drought prone area are given relief by the government. They are given some money. Just like during coronavirus, how the government started giving all the people who lost their jobs money, same way drought prone areas, the government will give money so that cattle can be kept and other ways of living can be done. And then if a particular crop is failing, the government will try to give more money for the next crop, so that they give the seeds free, and there are other mechanisms in which they support the farmers in the drought prone area. So in India, over the several years, there has been a lot of drought, but also the green revolution has started by Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, who was a very important agriculturalist. He started the green revolution. Okay, so this is through the drought management strategy, where the institutions that are involved, like the disaster management, state disaster management authorities and the national disaster management authorities, they started employment generation and social welfare methods, so that community participated in the all the areas, and so the drought has been reduced. And even if there is drought, the people affected are protected in a particular institutional mechanism. So the NDRF, National Disaster Response Fund, and the State Disaster Response Fund, they are used to provide money to the farmers who are affected because of drought. Then there is a crop insurance scheme. So for example, just like health insurance and normal insurance, crop insurance, when a crop fails because of less water, then the farmer is given money through the crop insurance scheme. So these are methods in which the government is trying to overcome the drought. Then the drought prone area is developed. So for example, there are ways in which organizations like ICRISAT, which is International Crops Research Institute for Semi-Arid Tropics, and the other institutes which you can read here, they all provide methods in which with less water the irrigation can happen. There are some things called drip irrigation, where every second one drop of water is enough for the plant. So not every second, every few seconds. So that means there is enough water for the plant to grow, but there is no loss of or waste of water. So these are the methods in which the government is trying to reduce drought. And other than this, in case there is any drought, the government also has employment generation and social welfare practices. That is, the National Mission for Green India is present. So this through this what happens is, the people who are affected by drought, they are provided money and they are given other ways of livelihood, so that the people are not dependent only on the farming. So for example, if the husband and wife are there in a house, the wife is given 3 goats, so that the husband does the farming, and if the crop fails, then at least they have some goats. So this method of giving employment generation. Then the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, or the Manrega scheme. So here what happens is, the people are given jobs for 100 days in a year. So even if their crops fail, they can have other income generation. And the integrated watershed management program, which develops 75 million hectares of drought prone area, and other methods like providing national water policy, so that the water scarcity area there is enough water, and the national watershed development program for rain-fed areas, even the interlinking of rivers. All these methods will help in overcoming the drought. So a particular area which is prone for droughts can have enough water so that the people do not suffer. Then the community participation is very important in any government, any village, and in any situation. So whenever the government is doing some benefit for the people, the community also should involve. Then only the people in that particular area will overcome the problems. So the Gram Sabha, Panchayat, all are given some particular jobs, so that the people who are affected in the particular area are given relief. That is, they are given money or other things, so that they are not affected because of the drought. Then operation of drought early warning system. We also talked about early warning system for cyclone, for tsunami. So for drought also there is early warning system. Drought is a little easy to identify, because we know when there is no rain, drought can occur. Drought is a slow disaster. It's not like a sudden disaster like the cyclone or flood. So here, if it does not rain, if there is no water over a period of time, then drought can occur. So there is a national organization, the Indian Meteorological Department, or IMD, and the National Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting. So all these organizations, they keep looking at the weather to see if a particular area in the country is prone for drought. So there is also weather watch group. So that means they keep watching the weather. If there is rain, if there is no rain, through the satellite they will be able to identify that a particular area is going to get drought. So then they take particular precautions so that the people do not get affected. And areas which are prone for drought, they do water preservation, that is saving the water. Even in our own culture, we have done rainwater harvesting. So that means whenever it rains, we try to take the rainwater to the underground instead of it flowing over the ground. Then watershed management, how to prevent the water from a particular area to prevent it from going to other areas. Then alternate crops. For example, if your crops are all dependent on rain, or if they take a lot of water, like sugarcane for example, it takes a lot of water for it to grow. So instead of sugarcane, in a drought prone area, they use crops which use less water. Then we can also use methods like reducing deforestation. That is, people are not allowed to cut the trees So if the trees are not cut, then the area is saved and protected from drought. So these are methods in which drought can be prevented. Then we can also use check dams and planting trees to prevent soil erosion, so that the soil is not moving off. Then people can be given alternate livelihood practices. Then the storage facilities, water storage facilities, if the village is having a tank or a lake, then the edges are built so that the water stays in for a long time and it is not running off. Okay. And the local area for animals, food is grown, just like preventing animals from dying. We can grow food for the animals like grass and other things, so that even if there is less water, the animals will survive with this food. And then rainwater harvesting, which I have already told. From the rooftops of the buildings, the rain is harvested and directly through pipes it is taken underground, so that the groundwater is recharged. When these methods are used, the drought will have less effect on the people. Of course, when there is no water, it will have some adverse effect, but the effect is reduced. And if we protect the environment, if we do all the rainwater harvesting, and if we do not cut down trees and protect the environment and prevent greenhouse gases from being emitted, then we will be able to avoid situations where there is excessive rainfall or no rainfall. So to prevent cyclones and even to prevent drought, what we have to do is we have to protect the environment, and that is very important. So next we'll see what are cyclones and avalanches and mangroves. Cyclones are atmospheric disturbances. Cyclones occur because of disturbance in the atmosphere. If you look at the sky, you can see that there are a lot of clouds. How does the clouds come? They come in from the sea area, so they travel over a lot of area, and cyclones are formed in the seas. When there is a change in the temperature, sudden drop or hike in the temperature, these cyclones are formed. There are two types of cyclones: tropical cyclones and temperate cyclones. Most of the cyclones that we get in India are called tropical cyclones, because they are formed because of the heat or the warmness of the ocean water. When the ocean's area is warm, then the water gets evaporated, and that water is brought into the land, and it falls as cyclone. So there are several effects of cyclone. One is the strong winds. There is high speed winds, and it causes a lot of damage to the buildings, and all the trees can fall. Then cell phone towers can fall, so communication systems get destroyed, and even houses, thatched roofs and things like that can fly off in the cyclone. Then when a cyclone happens, there is heavy rain and there is flooding. So sudden fall of a large amount of water can lead to flooding, and if the flood is happening in a hilly area, then it can lead to landslides. That is, the hill, one side of the hill just collapses. That is called landslide. And there can be soil erosion. If there is no trees, then the soil can be washed off in the flood. Then there can be storm surge, usually in the coastal areas like places like Mumbai, Chennai, Rameswaram. These are areas which are lying in near the ocean. So when there is a sudden cyclone, the water from the sea is brought into the low-lying areas of the land. This is called storm surge. It leads to sudden loss of lives and destruction of all the things. And because the salt water from the sea is coming into the land, it leads to increased saltiness of the water, so that plants cannot be grown in the water. So this can be monitored and told by the Indian Meteorological Department, where they monitor the satellite images and see if there are any cyclones or depressions forming. So if there are any cyclone, then they will give adequate warning so that people can take precaution and avoid going to the low-lying areas. And they also give warning to the Home Ministry and the state departments, so that they will be able to protect the people. So over the years, if we see many years back, in India got independence, a lot of people used to die because of cyclones. But recently, most of the people have saved. Instead of thousands and thousands of people dying due to cyclones, cyclone Hudhud and Falin claimed only 138 and 45 people. That means only that many people died, and most of the others were saved. Only thing is the cyclone Oki, which killed many people. The reason is it suddenly changed its direction. So even though the meteorological department will tell that it will go in a particular way, these natural disasters can suddenly turn this side or that side, leading to more loss of damage, and people who are not having precautions will die in this disaster. So how can we prevent all this death and damage? We have to create awareness. People have to be prepared. The communities which are in the coastal areas, low-lying areas, fishermen, these are the people who are most often affected. So they have to be given awareness so that they will be able to protect themselves. And the public generation of awareness will also make them responsible. Just like in coronavirus, the government gave awareness, so people have started wearing masks to protect themselves. Same way, the public have to take the role and responsibility so that they are safe even during cyclones. Then educational institutions, schools, colleges, you are the people who will be able to understand the seriousness, and when you are told about this risk of all these natural disasters, you will understand it and tell all the other people who are involved in your own family members, the senior people, you will tell, so that they will understand the seriousness of these disasters. And then the government also conducts a lot of mock drills, especially we in our institution we had fire safety drill. Same way, whichever area is prone for a particular disaster, the government does mock drills so that people are prepared for any emergency situation. And a lot of research activities are going on, and when science and technology develops, these methods are used to create awareness. So how can we manage cyclone? The one, we cannot prevent cyclones and we cannot stop the cyclone. So when the cyclone happens, we can only protect the buildings. We can construct the buildings in such a way that these buildings are protected and the roof does not fall, the roof does not fly off, and the telecommunication, that cell phone towers have to be tightly screwed so that they do not fall down. And the building codes, cyclone building codes, have to be followed so that there are no loose parts which can fly off in the wind. And the building design should be in a particular way so that if a good architecture builds, then they will know how to protect it from cyclones. And for safety of people, we have to create cyclone shelters, like Kalyana Mandapams and schools are used by the government to protect the fishermen and other people who live in areas that are prone for flooding, so that they will be in these shelters and their lives are saved. So just like in any other disaster, we also will see the structural and non-structural methods of preparing for cyclones. The structural method is construction of cyclone shelters. So these are buildings which are built on a high level, and they are just open buildings where people can come and live. And then buildings which are cyclone resistant are built so that they do not fall, they do not have any damage. Then all the other things like roads, bridges, canals, drains, these are all reinforced so that they are built in a proper way that they do not collapse during the cyclone. And the communication and power transmission networks are strengthened. So in spite of this, every cyclone, the cell phone towers and electric poles will fall down, but as much as possible, the government will try to protect it so that as soon as possible their power is restored to the people. And the non-structural things, early warning methods. Just like other disasters, we have to have early warning methods and dissemination measures so that the early warning is sent out and all the people who are likely to be affected will know about the disaster. Then we also have coastal zone management, that is the areas which are prone for cyclones. Those areas are under always protection by the government, and people are given awareness and risk management so that the people can immediately, when there is a cyclone, they themselves can take responsibility and go and live in a different place instead of waiting for the government to tell them. And the National Cyclone Risk Mitigation Project helps so that wherever there is a cyclone being predicted, they try to save the people and property so that people do not get affected because of the disaster. In spite of all this, there are some problems. Historically, what happens is India is a country where we only do things after the thing has affected. Even for we do not do prevention. Even for diseases, we do not prevent, we only act afterwards. So we always try to do post disaster works, but slowly it is changing, and we have to try to prevent the damage from from happening. Then most of the people of the country live in coastal areas, so these people do not have uh, enough capacity to cope with the disaster. So this has to be changed, and we have to strengthen the policies so that the government and the non-governmental organizations, they all work together and try to prevent people being affected from cyclones. And there should be proper coordination between the state and the central governments and all the other agencies, non-governmental agencies, as well as within the government departments, like for example the telephone department, the electric department. They all have to work together, because one department depends on the other for all its functioning. So every department, there should be proper coordination and communication, and the communication should be very good, so that any information that one department gets, it should be taken seriously and spread to the other departments, so that everybody gets awareness and they know about the severity of the cyclone and the magnitude of the cyclone. This will help in protecting their things. Suppose you know how much wind, how much speed at which the wind is going to blow, then you will be able to assess how much damage is going to happen before the disaster even occurs. This will help you to prepare for the time which is after the disaster. Then the zoning and the building regulation codes have to be followed strictly. In India, because of corruption, a lot of these are not followed, so this has to be overcome, and compliance will help in preventing damage and saving lives. So India also makes it that small fishing vessels should not go out during the cyclone time, and the people should follow the instructions of the government. This information is sent out through TV channels and radios, so people have to follow. Then the local communities should also be involved in preventing people from going. The village heads, they should give advice to the other people, and in case there is any damage, they know where the people living, how many people are living in their village, so they should be involved in the search and rescue missions also. Some of the other measures that can be taken are, before the disaster, we can provide cyclone forecasting, and how to where it will affect, when it will affect, how much speed, so all this. And the warning system should be made proper, and all the people who are in the affected area should be given adequate warning before the disaster strikes, and all the people should undergo regular drills, so that they know what they should do when the cyclone is going to affect them. Then as much as possible, mangroves and other things can be planted, so this will act as a prevention for the cyclone. Mangroves, will see in detail how it prevents cyclone. Then if a city is going to have a storm surge, then the drainage water should be going back to the sea, and the drainage system should be very strong, so that the flood water which gets in from the sea is taken back to the sea very quickly. And all the satellites should be used to prevent disasters and to predict the disasters. During the disaster, what should happen is, the people should be the government should try to reduce the number of deaths and the number of damage, and they should have communication lines open between the people in the affected area, so that they know what is happening, so that post disaster they will be able to take quick action and help in saving lives. And during the disaster, the hospitals and other important buildings, we said lifeline buildings, they should be kept open, so that people are given adequate protection, and people during the disaster itself, evacuation is started, so that people in affected areas will be given immediate care. After the disaster is gone, after the cyclone is finished, what they should do is, the government should assess the damage, and then they should immediately do recovery and rehabilitation of the people who are affected, so that the people who have lost buildings, lost their possessions, they are given money, they are given other forms of support, they are given ration food items from the ration shops, immediate food packets are distributed. So these will help them to save their lives. And good drinking water, because cyclones can affect the drinking water, also it can pollute the drinking water. Good drinking water should be supplied. And alternate methods of communication, if the communication is disrupted, electricity is not there, then all this should be provided to the people in the affected area. So this should be done after the disaster. Some of the ways in which we can improve the situation is, we can use land use zoning, that is, which area will be high area, which has good buildings and will be safe from the cyclone, and early warning system should be there. Then disaster risk reduction should be done, and risk assessment should be done before the cyclone happens. The areas which are vulnerable, people who are vulnerable should be identified, so that if a cyclone is suddenly going to come, they are the first people who are saved and their risk is reduced. Then after a disaster has happened, the disaster audit has to be done, so that we check whether the right methods of warning was given and whether method of evacuation was correct. And disaster risk reduction has to be done. So if these policies are followed, then people will be saved. And as much as possible, educated people, civil society and women should all be included in the disaster management program, so that their ideas are taken and better safety is provided to the people. So in conclusion, we can say that nature is unpredictable. We cannot do anything about it. Even if we predict that a cyclone is going to come, we cannot say that it will go in this particular way. Suddenly it will turn this side or that side. So we cannot do anything about that. But what we can do is, we can have adequate warning systems, adequate groundwork done, so that we can predict and try to mitigate the suffering of the people. So we can prepare the people mentally, we can give them advice, and we can also have cyclone shelters, so that the safety of the people is priority. And secondly, we can plan for good buildings, so that the property is also not damaged. And once the cyclone is crossed, immediate restoration, rehabilitation, recovery works have to be done. Communication has to be restored, electricity has to be restored, people have to be given food, then people have to be given shelter, people have to be given livelihoods, jobs, and they have to go back to their normal lifestyle as early as possible. Thank you.